Okay, so as I mentioned now, we are going to have a parent engagement session. The first presenter will be Antoinette Siarabalos. I hope I pronounced it properly. She's the e-learning coordinator at Emmaus College here in Victoria.
Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to my presentation. I've called this the Ed Partnership because clearly it is a partnership with the school with a focus to ensure that parent engagement improves culture and student outcomes. And I was really happy to hear Adam this morning speak about school culture because much of my focus is going to be around school culture. I would like to share our experience in what we have achieved in this partnership with parents at Emmaus College, our technological partners, Schoolbox and Digistorm, for the benefit of our students and educational outcomes. I'd like to start with a disclaimer. I don't have all the answers. So if you come here for answers, sorry. I am going to give you a multitude or a number of questions that you need to ask about your school and what's going to work for you. We did have a lot of questions on the table that we needed to answer before we implemented Schoolbox and before we started to look at how we were going to engage our parents. So I'm sorry, I'm going to be providing you with quite a series of questions that you need to ask about your school. These are the main themes that I will be looking at. As educators, we know about the importance of this partnership, and Adam made that very clear this morning. But I want to focus on school culture and put it into some context around how we came up with our conclusions. I also want to talk about changes in parental attitudes, procedures for change, what I think you need to be looking out for, our parent engagement journey and what we went through. We also were very fortunate because we had a longitudinal study of our parent community by Dr. William Keane, our principal, and his wife, Dr. Therese Keane. And we looked at how parent engagement and their attitude to what was going on at our school was changing. So we were very fortunate. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about the quick wins we had with parents, how we got them on board really quickly, and parent evaluation. So I'm sorry, that's very wordy, I know, and I've got a few wordy slides, but I couldn't think of a better way of presenting it. Basically, we know that what happens at home is very important with what happens in the classroom. We know that we have to form this partnership so that we can create positive role models around learning. And we believe, well, we felt from the start, to have this happening quickly, we needed to have our parent body informed, and informed on a lot of levels. We know that parental attitudes have changed, and I think Adam spoke about this morning. Why the change? Are we to blame? Are schools to blame? There's probably too many reasons to discuss here, but I think one of the things is that parents have a misunderstanding of how the modern education system now works and the structures within. And we can clearly say that over the past 5 to 10 years, schools are very different places. Clearly, parents have not been at school for a very long time. They do not understand, well, I'm not going to say they do not understand, that's probably putting them down. They have misunderstandings on how these changes are impacting in the classroom. So, what have been some of the changes that I'm talking about? Well, clearly in the ICT realm, we know about the DER revolution by the then Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. Doesn't matter how you feel about him, what you feel about him, or how things evolved over time, but certainly he got the ball rolling. We know that Students were encouraged and schools were encouraged to equip their students from years 9 to 12 with a device. The ICT structure was upgraded and all sorts of things started happening within the school community, and looking at online platforms was happening. But one of the big things was happening was that now parents were starting to get online to see what was going on at school. So the black box of what was the classroom was now starting to become clearer to parents, and they were starting to understand what was happening. And we made sure that parents came in with us on the journey. So we knew that parents knew about the three R's. We knew about that. But we know in education that we also have to teach students the 4 C's. So I'm not going to labour on that point. But our parent body understood that ICT was important. They understood this connection to some degree. But they weren't clear about how the ICT devices were going to be used in the classroom. They weren't clear about how this was going to improve learning outcomes. And this is where we had to come in and articulate this to parents. Research by Dr. Keane showed that we were correct in our assumptions here. They said, oh yes, we understand they need devices, we get that, but don't get us to pay for it. That was their initial response. And clearly, if the government's going to give us all this money, you can understand why they felt that way. They also stated quite clearly in the research that they felt many of these devices were just time-wasting activities where students could play games, surf the net, view YouTube clips. Understandably, they felt the device was basically a distraction. Again, we tried to alleviate those fears by explaining how we were going to use that device, and continually. I now say we are in an era of transparency where whichever online platform you're using, and all of you using Schoolbox, has unravelled and allayed these fears in parents of what's going on, because now they can clearly see, well, at our school they can, what's going on in the classroom, what resources there are, what results are there, what documentation is there, what policies we have. We've put all of these online in our instance, and it's paid off. So statements like, I don't have English tomorrow, so I don't have to do my English essay tonight, or Mr. A hasn't marked my Pythagoras test, or I don't have any homework tonight. Well, now the parents can say, well, let's log on and have a look, shall we? Are we going back full circle? At our school, I think we are. Because empowering parents with the information has certainly changed conversations at our school. So what are some of the things we have done? And again, I apologise, this is very wordy. These are some of the things we had to think about. What are our current procedures? What is it that we are currently doing that needs to change? What information do parents have currently? What do they still need to have access to? Who's responsible for changing procedures? So things like the student bulletin. I'm going to give that as an example. You probably have similar things at your school. We had a student bulletin that was printed out every morning. The pastoral teacher grabbed the printout, went to pastoral, told the students what they needed to know for the day. And I said, well, this has got to change. Boy, was that a minefield. Because, first of all, teachers had to inform the admin staff of the news items. So they all filtered to the admin staff. Then this student bulletin was typed up, and in the morning the admin staff printed it off. How dare I suggest that they do it another way? Which I did. I had to negotiate with a variety of people to make this happen. that it now went on our instance of Schoolbox M-Link every morning, and it appeared in the news item area. It took me well over 6 months to make it happen, but it happened. And on the final day where I said, right, this is the last printed newsletters you are going to see ever. On the Monday morning when I saw them printed, a friend of mine said, I walked over by instinct, picked them up, went to the print room and threw them in the recycle bin. No more. And when one teacher said to me, but what about the CRT teachers? I just looked at her and walked away. They got the message. It wasn't changing. So one of the other things we decided was that teachers were going to put homework tasks online. They were going to put tasks through a calendar, and I'll show you how that worked in a minute. You need to continually give people time for the change, and you need to negotiate who is going to take on board the changes. So my warning is this is a process. It takes time. The newsletter, the student bulletin, is my example. 6 months it took. But unfortunately, you do need to take that time to change procedures if you want it to work. And now, you know, the news bulletin, it's on M-Link, that's it. Everybody knows. Okay, what was our journey like? Well, a lot happened. And I apologise, that slide again is very wordy, but a lot did happen. We gave teachers and parents what I call sandbox time, playing with the platform. But in the background, things were happening. Like we were developing our curriculum resources. That took us a year to get that happening. And we were very firm about the structure of the curriculum resources. We decided that they all had to be presented in a particular way. So while this sandbox time was happening, we were getting ready in the background. We were also informing parents about continuous reporting and the benefits. And like I said, we had all homework tasks, due work tasks to be on the class calendar. We also gave parents instant resources for them to access as soon as they got online. And you'll see some of these resources in a minute. And we had evaluation. So this is what I mean by our quick wins. All homework tasks had to be put on the class calendar. So by default, each class has their own class calendar. And each parents could log on to see through the student calendar what homework they had. Our tasks were orange, so we taught parents how to filter to see the homework tasks for a particular day. Up to you what colour you would want to choose, but we chose orange. We also, another quick win was we told parents, hey, look, you can find your son or daughter's information very quickly, what class they're in, and also at any particular time of the day, but also the timetable showed them who their teachers were very clearly. So that was another one quick win. Curriculum resources, I spoke about that and how we made them all consistent. So if we looked at English, for example, we decided that they were all going to be set up the same way. So you can see it's got Year 7 English, Year 8, etc. When they click on that, parents can see the units or the topics that their sons and daughters would be studying. So we got parents engaged by saying, you want to know what's going on in the classroom? Have a look at our curriculum area. And they did. But we kept it all consistent. We also have other areas that we put instant information up straight away. So we've got these links that appeared on the parent homepage. And one of them was the careers information. So Year 10, of course, they're going to be looking at work experience. Then Year 11, subject selection, all those sorts of things. We had that information up very quickly. Information about our counsellors, the sorts of things that parents want instant access to. We had all of that up ready to go. Another area was our community area, where we encouraged parents to download policies. All the things that were in the physical paper diary were now online in our community area, as well as the user documentation to get through MLink. Photo gallery. All the events throughout the year, the photo gallery is constantly changing. There are 20 images that are selected roughly every time there is a school event, and they know if their sons or daughters are in that event, they go to the photo gallery. Another area we've had great wins with is a great works area. What's this all about? This is about publishing and displaying exemplary pieces of student work. So something that is really outstanding, we publish in this area. In the news items, I give a link to the area with the names of the students who have been published. And you can imagine students and parents alike flock to this area, especially if their sons or daughters have been mentioned. Pastoral Care is still under construction at our place. We're still navigating how we use this to engage parents. We're looking more at internal structures of who has access to which reports. So that's still under construction, and a big area we're going to put a lot of focus and time into over the next year. And with NCCD, if some of you know how that is connected to funding, this is a big area that we're going to be looking at this year. Of course, we had the parent MLink sessions for Year 7 parents to get them involved, and I just had one of those last week, and it was, we have a maximum of 20 participants, so they all have a hands-on, and I can get around and explain to them how it works. Okay, the other thing we did was we evaluated our instance at the end of the year. So we've had Schoolbox now, MLink, for 4 years. Last year, every class in the school had to use continuous reporting, and these were some of the questions we asked. Question 5 and question 9 were very open-ended on purpose. We did not want to lead our parents. We wanted them to tell us what they thought of the system. Day 1, I had 100 responses. I was overwhelmed. We have over 800 families, just over 800 families, and we had a 34% strike rate. I was absolutely flabbergasted. I did not think it was going to be that many responses. But clearly they are engaged in what's going on. Okay, if we viewed the results, and I'm only going to very briefly talk about this, clearly they went online mainly to check their son or daughter's results, followed by homework tasks, followed by the timetable of their son or daughter. The things that we were saying to them, you can get online and have a look, and they're the things, and they could pick as many as they liked. Their comments were very interesting, and they fell into 3 categories. They fell into the category of changing conversation between themselves and their sons or daughters and the learning that was taking place. Also, parents reflecting on how they can help their sons or daughters. And lastly, area of transparency, how teachers were using MLink, or how some teachers weren't using it as effectively as others. They commented on these things. So again, I know there's a lot of words there, but basically they were saying that they were enjoying the comments, that they could actually see where their sons or daughters were improving, how they could assist their sons or daughters. They liked the fact that it was timely information. 2 weeks after an assessment task had been submitted, our rule is within the 2-week period that results should go up. And the last comment, I swear I did not make that up. A parent said that. Very, very happy with Emmaus, and their daughter loves doing her homework. We sort of thought, yes, that would be a Year 7 student. if you could bottle that up and give that to year 12s or 10s or 9s, it would be wonderful. And this was an area where I said to our staff, if you think that they are not comparing, you've got to be kidding yourselves, because they were. They were saying things like, how come teacher ABC is doing it and XYZ isn't? And I get those comments quite often. It's an uncomfortable situation sometimes. I have to speak to teachers, but they are comparing. We are in this era of transparency simply because everything is online. Oh, the other thing I wanted to point out was parent-teacher evenings, how the conversations were changing. They said that. They looked at the comments. They said we were preparing for parent-teacher evenings because we wanted strategies around how we can help our sons and daughters. Okay, another way, 2 ways that we've also engaged our parents is the app through Digistorm. It was launched this year. In 1 month, we've had 500 downloads. Shows how engaged they are with our system. They want to know what's going on. And lastly, we have a social media presence. So parents can see what's going on in real time at our place any day. And that we do have people who are responsible for that and do put up things all the time. You can see we've had the swimming sports last week. So that's clearly there. Okay, I hope that I've given you some sense of understanding where we've gone with this, and I've given you some ideas that you can take away. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you, Antoinette. So on behalf of Schoolbox, we have a bit of a gift.
Oh,
Thank you. Thanks so much for your presentation. So as a good way to continue, Antoinette just mentioned they started this year to use EduApp. So we have Chris Lang, Director of Sales and Marketing from Digistorm, who's going to give us more information about the mobile app from Schoolbox.
Thank you. Cheers. I think we just got to... Yeah, I've got that. Yeah. Yeah.
What is the person?
It's on the next page. Fantastic. Thank you. No, it's not really.
Yeah, no, I've got it
Cool.
locked over. Alright. So by the time I go there, I'll give you a thumbs up.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. Look, thank you all for taking the time to catch up with me. There's a lot of familiar faces in the audience. For those of you that I haven't been able to meet, I'm Chris Lang. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at Digistorm. So look, first up, at Digistorm, our mission is to build kind of premium products that solve real-world problems. So as part of that, we constantly hear feedback from schools and talking about their biggest pain points. And something that we hear constantly is that schools are not engaging parents as well as they could be, or that they know they should be. Okay. Alternatively, how do we make our parents more engaged? So firstly, our company specializes in building software and apps for schools. And school apps designed specifically to help school-to-parent communication. So guys, I want to be upfront here. In this talk, I'll be speaking to you about our EduApp and how you can use your app to improve communication. That's where our experience lies, so that for me felt the most natural part to talk on. Look, we all know that engaged parents make a difference. We all know that students do better academically and socially when there are positive connections between the life at school and life at home. But look, teachers and support staff are still, and you can all relate to this, constantly fielding questions like these. I didn't know I was supposed to be there. Why haven't I heard anything about this till now? You send so many emails, I've stopped opening them. There are too many places to look for information. So, probably sounds quite familiar to a lot of you. In any given week, parents might receive messages from the school through, a notice in the school parent portal or Schoolbox instance and the instant notification, an email from the child's teacher or from the support staff, an SMS from the child's football coach about where the game is being held on Saturday, a social media post about buying tickets for the upcoming school musical. The business office might be a bit more old school. They might send out a fees notice in the mail. A newsletter may or may not make it home, and an advertisement on your school website might also be placed. So when we actually take a step back and look at the number of touch points that a parent will have with the school, it's no surprising that they're feeling quite overwhelmed. Overwhelmed parents tend to disengage, and disengaged parents do things that drive us all a bit crazy. So this might not be turning in permission slips because they just didn't open the email, or complaining about the school at home. So look, how do we address this? And this is a big question. Today I'm going to look at just 3 big improvements that we can make to try to help your school with parent communication. All right, so the first one, and look, Antoinette spoke about before, this one takes a lot of work, but I know your parents will obviously thank you. Look, sit down with your key members of school and map out all the channels that you're using to communicate with parents. Sometimes when we work with schools on this, they tend to take a bit of shortcuts or just say, oh, we don't often send that, or we don't often do that. But it's really important to be as accountable as you can to all these individual types. Map out how you use them, and also be honest how effective they are. If you have an online newsletter, do you really actually check the open rate? If you check the open rate, do you check the click-through rate? If you check the click-through rate, do you understand how long they spend on the page? So the truth is that parents nowadays have really high standards of how they actually expect to be communicated to. In every other aspect of their life, they expect to have a few clear communication channels that are very well defined in terms of how they're used. So let's look at their work life, for example. So they know that their boss will communicate to them using a certain channel. Their colleagues will communicate to them using another channel, maybe Microsoft Teams or a Skype for Business. And then their clients will communicate to them using another channel. So in good workplaces, they really only have a few of these channels that they need to really stay on top of. In really good workplaces, these communication channels will be centralized or talk to each other as much as possible. So now let's look at their social life. Maybe your parents are involved with some after-hours community groups. They know that the community group members will then talk to each other using Facebook or another social media platform, but the organisers of the group will send direct SMSs. And if the organisers of the group decide to use even half of the channels that I spoke about just before for your school, I think there'd be a lot less engagement within the school. So I guess the question is, why do we expect parents to manage such a wide range of communication tools? Now, after you've actually mapped out these touch points, let's look at how you can consolidate communication to just a few channels where possible. When you're choosing the channels, it's important to think about the needs of your parents and the communication type. A good example for me is co-curricular information. When do parents need this? Generally outside business hours, maybe Saturday morning, maybe it's raining, they want to understand if the sport's been cancelled. Is the method you choose going to allow you to send something time critically? Or are you waiting for them to come to you? Now, all of your parents are busy people. We're all time poor these days, and probably only be doing school-related tasks when they find a spare minute. So, they're waiting at the doctor's, watching their child at the sports practice, or on a lunch break from work. These are times that we really want to ensure parents can access that information as easily as possible. This means that your communication, a big consideration of your communication is that it needs to be accessible by the device that they have on them all the time, which 9 times out of 10 is the mobile device. So and I don't need to tell many of you this is why Schoolbox really is such a great system. It keeps all the school communication in the one place, and it is accessible on any device. Now, we really are fortunate to work with many schools during the implementation, the rollout process of Schoolbox, and we want to work alongside them to ensure that the mobile component is a success. And look, while permissions, group management, and the core structure should be driven from Schoolbox, it's worth revisiting your other systems and look at what you can integrate with from a parent perspective. So let me give you an example of how you can consolidate a few of these communication channels. So for a parent view, on a mobile app, for example, you might then bring through your instant notifications. These might be coupled with push notifications if you don't send too many. The school calendar or the child's calendar. They might want to see the news, particularly with the new targeting and that new API that Schoolbox can be released. That'll be brilliant, as well as the due work as well. They can see their child's timetables, their classes, their grades, and their groups. All within that with the SSO or using Touch and Face ID to log them in straight away. Then you might add some other things. So you want to consolidate some other services. You might bring in a contact directory. Or you might add a newsletter module. So you want to increase the readership on your newsletter. You might add an absentee notification form to enable revisiting to the app regularly. And then you might integrate a few other external platforms. So you might work with a company like EdSmart to bring that through, their slips. You might do what Melbourne Girls Grammar and implement a barcode system on the app so that students and parents can simply scan their device or scan their app against a barcode and pay for things around the school. Alternatively, you might bring through news or blogs from other websites or your inbound content marketing platforms. Lastly, you may then add links to or external platforms. This might be Synergetic. This might be Taz. This might be CareMonkey, Flexi Schools with your social media. So the end result of this for the parents is a clean user interface which is designed to just serve information from the one platform. Ultimately, with parents being time poor, it's not about where they go for the information. They just want to make sure that it's current and up to date and that they can trust it. So the next step is consistency. Once you've consolidated your communication channels to a few clearly defined platforms, it's time to look at those touch points I spoke about to ensure that your school messaging and branding is similar and consistent every time. So some examples could be, does the wording on your carefully crafted end-of-school message match up with your website? If you are branding your app, again, like Melbourne Girls Grammar, like Evie or Ivy for Toorak College, does it feature that branding to create that similarity or that engagement? Is every piece of social media post understandable and not using educational focused terms? And can people with disabilities read your website? So essentially, do parents have a consistent and positive experience every time they come across a piece of communication from your school? Are there spelling mistakes? Are there grammatical errors? So it's still early enough to either look at getting a formal strategy in place. And look, trust me, I do know that this is not easy with hundreds of staff / borderline impossible. But by having a core structure that they can follow will help them with that. All right, so last one is promotion improvement. Once you've done all that, it's time to put it all together and create the best possible experience for your parents. So we mentioned having an app that integrates with Schoolbox, your school sys, and external platforms can simplify that communication. But once you've implemented a platform like an app, it's time to really let them know that it exists and to also keep them reminding them, as well as set up a process for continuous improvement. Okay. So first step is the launch. So when we build a school app, we provide you with marketing material. We provide you with newsletters, user guides that you can send home, Facebook imagery that you can use, email signatures that you can send. But other schools have done some really incredible things. So a lot of schools have touted to me their success at the parent information evenings and running through how to actually use it, what they can get from the app. Okay. Some schools like Sheldon College, for example, have built some incredible videos outlining and explaining why a parent should download an app as well. Furthermore, get parents on site early. This is really a big one. So heavily engaged and parents can be one of your best assets. when they're on board with something that you're doing at school. But obviously, you probably all agree they can be one of your worst detractors, and when they don't agree, and we've all heard of the car park mafia. So we all know who these parents are, and when you're launching an app, you can invite them to be involved in the testing process. You may not let them be involved in the kind of design, iteration, or development of it, but at least by getting them on side early for the testing can really serve dividends, and we've seen a lot of schools do this as well to great success. And when you do launch something like the app, it needs to be looked at as just one step of a long road ahead, and with staged rollouts as well. Okay, so getting parents on board early is something that you can ensure that it makes as easy as possible. Now, once it is live, you'll probably be hearing positive and also negative feedback about the app. Ben was saying there from City Point Christian that he had someone say, we don't want an app. We never asked for an app. So you should really welcome this. It keeps your parents using the tool. If you embrace that positive feedback, ask them to share stories, ask them to even provide a review on the App Store. But even the negative feedback, if there are technical issues, they can be sent to us. But it can be looked as a chance to improve for version 2. Start by setting up a system for iteration. Okay, so often we go to see schools, we might analyze their Google Analytics data and all their usage and the sessions and so on. But we don't know what the parents are actually saying or what they want. And so often these parents are telling you what they want to see. They might say, oh, I couldn't find where my Johnny was playing soccer on Saturday morning. Okay, great. So what they're actually trying to do is find out co-curricular information. What co-curricular system are you using? If you don't have one, are you using Schoolbox groups? Are you using anything? How can we bring that into the app to serve that in the one platform? So that's something that I think can really, really help as well, understanding that. And lastly, promote. Once the app's live, your job's not done. I see a lot of schools come to me and say, it went really well at the start and we just really haven't pushed it that hard lately, or just we need to give it another go. Parents need to be constantly reminded that it exists, number one. And number two, that they can check it regularly. A big thing for me is that with the push notifications, these can be seen by a lot of schools, although a lot of schools are afraid of sending too many pushes or sending push notifications. I personally love them, and the reason why is that A, for your parent or your community, they understand that the app's being used, that the app can be trusted, that the information's up to date. Okay, so I'm the first one to say if the information in the app is not up to date, it's worthless. It's just a shell, it's not even worth a download. But by sending push notifications, you're reminding them it's there and you're actively engaging them. Okay, you're reaching out to them from a device that they have on them all the time. Also, teachers can be one of your best assets for re-promotion. So some of our best schools that use the app, it's because when someone calls up, I want to find out this out, it's on the app. Students at school, at parent-teacher interviews, they say, check the app. You want to see what works for you? Check the app. This is how you find it, check the app. And that constant reiteration creates a culture where we look at the analytics, and there are some schools, they might have 1,200 boys and they're getting 2,000 actually unique people viewing the app every day or every week, and each of those people are viewing at about five or six slides of screens and spending over 3 minutes on the app. And while that might not sound long for a desktop, if you actually think about how long you spend on an app, that's incredible, because they want to go there, they just find the information that they want and action it right from the app. Now, lastly, I'd like to just invite you all, if anyone does have any feedback to what they think would help parent engagement, we want to define, a lot of you do have the digital map, which is fantastic, and we want to define kind of the roadmap moving forward. I really encourage anyone who wants to see more development or wants to see Schoolbox put something else in, or e-portfolios come through better, please use the Schoolbox Help Centre to upvote and add ideas about what you'd like to see. We're watching it, Schoolbox watching it, and we'd really want to grow, but we want to know your assistance with it. So look, thank you very much. Everyone, appreciate your time. I hope you have a great conference, and if you have any questions, we can do now, or you can come and see me after. Cool. Thanks, buddy.
A bit of a gift from Schoolbox. Thanks so much.
Thanks, man.
So, any questions for Antoinette or Chris are now welcome before we go into lunchtime. We have one question there. Just 1 second.
Regarding your curriculum pages, who actually maintains those, who builds them, and who looks after the consistency of them?
That's a really good question. We decided very early, like I said, we were going to have consistency, and we employed an ex-student to do that for us initially. We then trained up our teachers to understand how that back end works, and they have now taken on the role of updating those pages. But having said that, I have a core team of 20 MLink champions who work with me to assist teachers every week. So we have an afternoon, every Wednesday afternoon, where teachers can come and ask us questions about using the platform. And we address those questions every Wednesday afternoon. That's a very good question. Yeah.
And are they all viewable to parents?
Yes. Yes.
Just in regards to parent engagement, how have you seen when the parents go actually onto their class pages, student pages? Have you seen parent engagement go up in using the analytics function in Schoolbox?
So what are you exactly asking?
How many parents have seen the pages is pretty much what I'm getting at.
Oh, the resource pages?
Any of the pages, the class pages, resource pages.
Okay, as Chris has just mentioned, you've got to keep mentioning this to parents. So the minute I put something in the Great Works, boy, parent, access increases. The minute I put something new in community, increase. The photo gallery, increase. So you do have to keep reiterating and using the news item area to prompt parents to go there. Yeah.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
I have a question regarding the curriculum page as well. So I think initially we are under the discussion whether we allow the parent to see the curriculum stuff, but some teachers decide they don't want parent to see it because it's actually when you allow parent to see it, a question raised, so parent compare. So compare one teacher to the other. So some teachers are good, but some teachers probably not doing that good on the Schoolbox page. So I'm just wondering if you, like parents asking you about that one teacher is doing well, but the other teacher is doing not that well. So how you actually tell the parents and how you handle this internally?
Okay. We haven't had an issue with the curriculum pages because they were set up for them initially. And like I said, we have a core team of 20 teachers who assist other teachers in reorganising those pages. We haven't had so much of an issue. The area we've had an issue with is that not all teachers are uploading the homework tasks and correct dates for assessment tasks. That's where we constantly, we're fighting a little bit of a battle. It's getting better, I've got to say. This year's 100 times better than what last year was. But it's an ongoing thing that we need to continually remind staff. So we haven't really had that issue, I'll be honest.
This is just it's not a question, but it's exactly what you just said. It's constantly helping the teachers, making sure they're doing the right thing.
That's right.
'Cause from my experience, not a lot of teachers, but quite a few teachers are having that struggle of putting the assessment task up, but forgetting that the due date is not
The due date,
31st
correct.
of December at the end of the year.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I just had a question with your calendar. So do you tend to use your calendar instead of your due work and assessments? You said you put on the calendar page for the class that they've got homework tonight. So actually instead of a due work task, I just inserted a calendar then to see if they merged, but they don't. So
They do actually.
Oh, I just
They
thought-
do. So when you set up a task and you set a due date, that comes up on the student calendar as well. So the homework tasks, as well as their assessments and any other exercises, they all come up on the calendar.
So you're saying on the class calendar component?
The class calendar component for us is mainly for homework tasks, but the other tasks do come up as well. Oh, I see what you're asking me. They do come up on the student calendar, yes.
Yeah, but not on the class calendar, so they'd be two
No.
separate items on
Yep.
your page.
Yep. I see what you're asking.
I was just wondering whether you are targeting your news and notifications and stuff to specific parents, rowing parents getting rowing news and
Yep.
basketball, etc. How you're doing that? Is that through the UPS or some other means?
At the moment, we're just targeting all parents. And I agree that's probably not ideal, but at the moment through Schoolbox and the news function, we are targeting all parents. So if something goes on in the Great Works area, all parents are notified. And believe me, they like to be notified about that because if their son or daughter's work's going up there, they want to see it.
So have you had any pushback from parents getting notifications that they don't want to read, or are they just sifting through those? How's your feedback been on that?
Okay, well, we've just introduced the app, which we are going to evaluate probably around October again this year. So I can't really answer that question because we haven't evaluated that yet. I'm just not sure what
Yeah.
that will be.
Thanks.